find this an incredible scripture that we're celebrating Martin Luther King Day on. I'm not sure how many Baptists are into getting drunk, but probably not a lot. We'll talk about that in a bit. I had a different title for this message, and I asked Scott to change it to nudges. Do y'all know what nudges are? What's a nudge? It's a gentle poke in the ribs, or a gentle prodding, right? According to the dictionary, a light touch or push. I've had a number of nudgings this week, and I'm wondering if you all have had any as well, where you get that notion from somewhere or someone that there's something you are meant to do at that moment that had you not had that nudge, you would not have known you would or could or should do it. I think Jesus gets a nudge from his mother. Either that or he's just a good Jewish son that does whatever his mother asks. I'm not sure. But it's Martin Luther King weekend as well. And I found this story online this week, and it made me pause. Ukiah Swain is the mother of 4 teenage boys who were harassed by a manager at a Kroger store in Mesquite, Texas last week. The manager at that store called the police on her sons after they purchased snacks at the store. Why did he call the police? For shoplifting. Why did the manager single out these teens? Who produced receipts for everything they had on them that they were told they had shoplifted. According to 16-year-old Zebariah Swain, the manager told him, "We've had problems with people like you before. Problems with people like you." I think we've heard that recently in another setting. The boys have since been banned from that store for a year, even though they produced receipts that they had paid for everything, dated receipts for that day, that they had paid for everything they had. And I thought, is it 2019? Is it 50 plus years since Martin Luther King was assassinated? And here we are, still stuck in the net of racism and homophobia and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. We're stuck there, and we need to get unstuck. And I thought, we need to talk about what Martin Luther King taught us. And if you had a chance to look at the pastor's message, and I know not everybody has that chance every week, I put some quotes in there from him, and I just stole a few of them for today to remind us what he said. Peace cannot be kept by force, can only be achieved by understanding. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. How many think he's right? How many of us still want to hate people that do us wrong? And yet, it's just that momentary shove down the stairs. It's fleeting. It doesn't last long.
More than a nudge.
But we know that. Don't we know that? Hate can't drive out hate. But we're tempted because we're human. He also says, we must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. One who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. We are called to forgive. Boy, that's a tough one. He also says, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Without love, there is no reason to know anyone. For love will, in the end, connect us to our neighbors, our children, and our hearts. Are we sensing a theme here in what he was saying? It's that great commandment that Jesus gave us that replaced all other commandments when he was asked, what is the greatest? And the greatest and the most difficult is to love. To love as we've been loved by God, not as we've been hurt by others. Tough, tough stuff. But so we know that what we celebrate is positive, I've asked Scott to share with us a short video today that I think fits this weekend.
My husband just died, and we weren't like this. Oh my God! I didn't ask nobody for nothing. I didn't even ask for nothing. Oh my God!
You okay? You got love for you. Take that. Plan, take care. We gotta take care of each other.
How did you?
Heard you at the farm.
I don't know if you caught that. It was on BuzzFeed, so you might find a longer version there. My wife actually found it and showed it to me. Said this would be good for tomorrow. But it's two comedians who are stopping for gas for themselves, and they overhear this woman say they don't have money for gas. And her husband has just died, and she doesn't know how she's going to pay for gas. I'm not sure for what. That's all we have of the video. And these two guys come up to her, two men of color, come up to an older woman of a different color and say, we need to take care of each other. We need to take care of each other. And I think that's what Martin Luther King would say to us. We need to take care of each other. We need to take care of each other. So then, we get to today's scripture, which doesn't seem to go with anything. Quite honestly, I don't even think it goes with the rest of the Gospel of John. It's really kind of interesting. Does anybody know how many signs, they're called signs, not miracles, in the Gospel of John. Does anybody know how many signs John includes in his Gospel of the miracles that Jesus did? Does anybody know what the number is? It's bigger than 1, less than 10. 7. It's 7. This is the first one. This is the first one. Then the second one is healing the royal official's son in Capernaum. The third is healing the paralytic at Bethsaida. Fourth is feeding the 5,000. Fifth, Jesus walking on water. Sixth, healing the man born blind. And 7, the raising of Lazarus. What's the difference between this one and the other 6? Aren't the other 6 all about taking care of each other? Feeding people, healing people, raising his friend from the dead. They're all about taking care of each other. And then we have this one. And why do we have this one? I think because his mother gave him a nudge.
Yep.
He said, they ran out of wine. What does he say? What's it to me? Right? My time has not come. He's probably saying, what am I wasting a miracle on this stuff for? They're all drunk anyway, according to the story. But it's a nudge. And for whatever reason, it was a nudge his mother gave him to help somebody out. And I suppose in that way, it fits with the other 6. It's a nudge to help somebody out. I want you to think about nudges that you had this week. A congregant came up to me and gave me these.
Do you
Can't
know
see
your
'em?
size or what?
I got this one for me, but I got a bigger one for you, Michelle. I didn't get it. Who are they for? Kids. What kids?
St. Joe's?
Not St. Joe's. Those kids are in the hospital.
That's elementary.
Why the Mints kids? Because there are kids that come to school right now in t-shirts and shorts and flip-flops. And when Sue Clark asks them why, they say, because this is all I have. Somebody in here got a nudge this week that said, if it's cold enough for us to do boots and blankets for people who are on the streets, is it not cold enough for us to think about these kids living in their cars or otherwise in need who might like a warm sweatshirt? I don't think they cost a whole lot. I was told the person found them on sale at Walmart's for $3. But the person got a nudge while they were in Walmart's and said, I'm going to go check the clearance rack. And came back, I'm told, and said to their partner, you know that lunch we just had that somebody treated us to? How much do you think that cost? And the partner said, I don't know, I think it cost about $25. The person with the sweatshirt said, here, it's $25 worth of sweatshirts, and we had $25. If we had $3, would it make a difference? Do you remember the story of the man walking the beach in Mexico? And he was walking the beach, and there were all these starfish on the beach. And when he came to a starfish, he would pick it up and throw it back in the water. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
And somebody coming the other way says to him, what are you doing that for? Do you really think it makes a difference? And he picked up another one, and he threw the next one into the water, and he said, it made a difference to that one. We can't always do big things, but we get nudges to do little things. Think about it. How many people out of work without paychecks these days? Do you see what PayPal is doing? $500 interest-free loan if you're a federal employee out of work.
That's awesome.
I was out getting gas on 301 yesterday, and I wasn't at Wawa because it was cheaper at Thornton's. and there was a woman, a young woman. I mean, I don't know how young, because everybody that's like under 50 is young to me. But young, look, you know, because I'm driving by, so I didn't stop, and I probably should have. I thought about that later. And she had balloons up, and she had her car parked there, and she had the what's it called, the lift back up, and she had a sign posted, and she was holding another one that said the same thing. You know what the sign said? Free food. Free food. Maybe that person got a nudge to do what, I don't know if it was cooked food, not cooked food. I don't know if it was canned food. There didn't seem to be any requirements for receiving it. Just want everybody to know there was free food if they needed it. I thought, wow, that's another nudge. I'm going to tell you what touched my heart. It was my privilege. I showed up at the Boots and Blankets yesterday so I could take some photos of the people that were actually doing the work, which was not me. I was standing there just being me. But Jill and Peter and John and 4 friends of ours from USF LGBT alumni group were there. And Scott, we have some photos of that, don't we? I don't know if you can read this one, but it's MLK. Your purpose is to strengthen the community, to promote justice, and to empower whatever it is I can't read. What do you think they were empowering? To empower other people? I don't know, but that was their t-shirt. This was the group of people that showed up. And not everybody could find exactly what he or she wanted. And some people, look at that guy scrounging. Some people came late, those are the USF folks. Some people came late and said, do you have this or do you have that? And lots of times it was gone, what in particular they were looking for. And so the gang that was there helping them helped them find other things. Okay, like all the long pants are gone. How about a sweatshirt? Or how about a long sleeve shirt? Or how about this? And to a person, they said, thank you so much. Am I lying, Joe? I'm not lying. Am I lying, Joe? Am I lying, Peter?
No.
They said, thank you so much. Even though you didn't have what I wanted, thank you for what you gave me. And a woman showed up in flip-flops, and we had already packed up, and the cars had left with the clothes and the shoes that were left. And she said, oh my God, can I get a pair of shoes? I really need a pair of shoes. And there were only a couple of us left there. And I said, I'm really sorry, but they've left. And she said, that's okay, I was late. She didn't have a pair of shoes. A grandmother came with 2 granddaughters. The grandmother had a walker. And the kids were little, even smaller than you and me, Michelle. The kids were little. And we found 2 brand new long sleeve shirts for them. And they actually matched. It was really cute. And the older girl was probably 6, 7, maybe, who said thank you. It was very polite, very lovely. And the little girl, who was maybe 3,
Yeah, she was small.
maybe 3, tiny little girl. Her name was KK. And she got her t-shirt, her long sleeve shirt, and I couldn't help it, you know. It's the grandmother in me. I just said, love you. And this little voice came back, love you too. I never met her, she never met me. And her grandmother is trying to find them clothing because they don't have any. And when I went to ask their names so I could tell you all the story, there was a guy there talking to the grandmother, and he says, oh, she doesn't remember their names. She has so many grandchildren, she can't keep track of them all. So I went over and I said, well, can you tell me your names? And they did. But, I mean, and the grandmother actually had them right, but it was like, I have so many. And it was like, here's this grandmother taking care of her grandchildren for whatever reason. Very late in the process, somebody came up, and it was a couple, hey, the woman's son had just gotten out of jail, and she said, oh my gosh, my son just got out of jail, and I think the men's clothes were packed and gone by then. And she goes, you know, do you have anything? And I don't think we found him anything. But she started to go through the women's clothing and found a few things for herself. And I'll tell you what, and Peter, I think Peter was the one that was on top of this. There were dresses there. And when some of the women found dresses that fit them, they were just beside themselves with delight that you guys had come up with dresses for them. And they would say things like, oh yeah, that's me. And the woman took it, and it was, I think, a lower cut one than the first one Jill had handed her. And I said, oh sure, take the sexy one. But they were just delighted to have what they wouldn't have had. Delighted that they could dress in something that made them feel good when they were with their beloved. That's what Martin Luther King Weekend's about. I even think that's what making new wine at the wedding feast was about. It's about taking care of each other. It's about letting Spirit nudge us so that the littlest things we think of might be the biggest things in some 3-year-old's day. And so I invite you, as we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday tomorrow, that you let yourself be nudged, because there's something we're all supposed to be doing. And it doesn't have to be even $3 worth of anything. It might just be that you shared a kind word with somebody who was having, what is that? Terrible, bad, something day. Do you remember there's a book that, right? Isn't that a story that there were some kids? You know, somebody having a terrible day, and you're kind to them. Or you smile at somebody. Or you let somebody cut in front of you without flashing them the international distress signal. Or you're standing in the 20 item line, and you let the person behind you go first. Because you're not in a hurry. And they appear to be. Mark, you know, it's not just love that drives out hate, but it's love that opens people and frees them from what's holding them captive. You know? Whatever it is that's holding them captive, most of the time it's fear of something. But it's up to us. Whether we got a Jewish mom poking us in the ribs saying, get that wine made, kid. Or we let Spirit whisper in our ear, buy a sweatshirt, buy somebody a cup of coffee. I think one of the coffee shops is doing that for people out of work. They're asking people if they want to pay ahead. If they would throw like an extra $1 or something in the cup, so if somebody comes in who is out of work, they could give them a free coffee. You know, if we all do one little thing this week, it's going to be a big thing in somebody else's life. It's going to be a big thing in somebody else's life. And so I ask, as we celebrate Martin Luther King Day, let's listen for the nudges. Let's wait for the nudges, and let's respond to the nudges. Because pretty much, it's Spirit nudging us to do something good. And it's all about love. Truly. Nothing in our lives is not about love. It's all about love. When we come to die and we show up, God's not going to say, oh, let's do an accounting. I really think God's going to say, tell me how you loved. Let's sit here and talk about how you loved. Because I love to hear how you love. Amen.
Amen.